Crypto and digital assets are key to the new financial system that is being developed all over the globe right now, especially here in the United States. We have the CEO of Robinhood basically telling you how important this innovation is and what it's going to be used for in the future. I also wanted to explore today what Ripple and XRP are going to solve at scale for tokenization of financial assets like real estate and other products. We're going to explore all of that and a ton of other things. We also have Paul Barron checking in with the Black Swan Capitalist Brothers, talking about XRP is the largest financial cover-up in history. We're going to get into that video and the speculation around that. But first, we need to start here.
I do think that crypto itself, there's two ways to look at it. One is a tradable asset like options, futures, and equities. The other is as a fundamental underlying technology. And in the second lens, it's the next stage in evolution. We've gone from paper and pencil, filing cabinet-based financial services to mainframe, to on-premise, and then more recently cloud. Now, crypto is the next stage in that, where a lot of the business logic that we've required businesses to actually build is now shared infrastructure. So exchanges, lending pools, payment processors, all these things are replaced by software. So I think in the future, crypto technology will power trading and all sorts of financial services, including trading in stocks and other TradFi assets. So the two will fully merge. I do think that
the two will fully merge. And when you take a look here, let's just go coin market cap. Let's just take a look here. The top assets, the top 10 assets, because these are the assets that banks and financial institutions are most looking at. When you take a look at the top 10 assets in the crypto market, two of these things are stablecoins, USDT and USDC. USDC, I'd imagine, is being used by some financial institutions, but not all. But we're talking about the tokenization of financial assets. Are you going to be doing that on the Bitcoin blockchain? Probably not, right? Why would you when you have Ethereum, XRP, or maybe even Solana, right? And then you're talking about what institutions, financial institutions are most interested, what blockchain companies, blockchain infrastructure companies are they most interested in working with, right? Are they going to go work with CZ and BNB? I don't think so, right? CZ has had a lot of legal trouble here in the United States. So financial institutions aren't going to go out and partner with somebody that used to be in jail for some type of crypto breaking some type of laws, right? So you only have a limited company here. You have XRP, you have Ethereum, and you have Solana. Those are the three that I think are going to see the most use out of the top 10 here. Here's another clip from the same gentleman who owns Robinhood talking about tokenization for real estate, and then we're going to get into some key points here.
And I think real estate's a big opportunity. I think it's smart that they're aggressively pursuing that because everyone wants access to high quality real estate, particularly the mass market.
But isn't it true real estate is actually more complex? I mean, they tried this before. It hasn't really worked.
It has some similarities to a private company, actually. If you think about what a real estate investment looks like, you create a corporation. Using that corporation, you acquire some asset. It has some costs, which you want to minimize as much as possible. Maintenance. It has revenues like rent, receivables, or depending on how you use it. So if you can tokenize a private company, that same technology can actually be used to tokenize real estate, be it residential, commercial. And yeah, I think we figured out how to do it. It's just a question of regulation and what the right products are for different groups of customers.
We figured out how to do it. Remember, they bought Bitstamp, and Bitstamp runs on the XRP Ledger's technology. Ripple and the XRP Ledger are considered nearly ideal platforms for tokenization of real estate due to a combination of technical, regulatory, and business features unique to their architecture and the ecosystem. The XRP Ledger's recent technological advancements and high-profile real-world pilot project strongly position it at the forefront of asset tokenization, including large-scale real estate applications. Now, what exactly are we talking about here? Of course, there's the extremely quick, fast speed, 3 to 5 seconds, the low cost, 0.0002, the high throughput of 1,500 transactions per second. Now, this can scale, obviously, if they wanted to. Decentralized exchange built into the XRP Ledger itself. It was the first DEX ever created. Ecosystem-friendly consensus protocol providing sustainability, and institutions with ESG mandates. Now, we've kind of been moving away from this a bit, but it is there if that's something important to the institution. Now, let's get into the more meat and potatoes of why the XRP Ledger is positioned to take a large share of this market. Authorized trust lines, token whitelisting, and multi-signature wallets for regulatory compliance and robust access control, freeze controls, and clawback functions, critical for aligning with global regulatory requirements and major for enabling regulated secondary markets in real estate. Also, native asset issuance and custody integrations, such as the partnership with Control Alt in Dubai's property title deeds, solidifying XRP's role as a compliant and auditable solution for governments and institutions. Now, it's one thing to bring in the title deeds. That's great, right? But there's no value here. It's just paperwork. So when this house or whatever gets sold, this property gets sold, the title would move to the next person via the XRP ledger. But where the real value for the XRP ledger would come in is if the value of this property actually lived on top of the XRP ledger, and if maybe you needed XRP as collateral for that asset. All right, let's continue. Recent and ongoing upgrades. So this is very important because all of this, some of the major just happened over the last few weeks here. The launch of multi-purpose token, also known as MPT for short. If you see that on X, that's what it stands for. Standard in October 2025, allowing property and commodities to exist as native tokens on the XRP ledger, with confidential tokens and advanced privacy for institutional use coming in future releases. Of course, the EVM compatible sidechains with zero knowledge proofs and native lending protocols, which together unlock programmability and private trading absent from most legacy blockchains. Ripple stablecoin RLUSD and advanced custody networks further enhance liquidity and tokenization of real world assets. And here are some of the examples it gave. Dubai government-backed initiative using XRPL to tokenize $325 million worth of real estate. That is supposed to, happen over the next few years. Obviously, it could take longer or it could take shorter depending on regulation and how quickly they want to move. Institutional partnerships such as Ripple collaborating with Zoni QX and Orium Equity Partners to tokenize multi-billion-dollar real estate and real-world asset funds. So it's not just the real estate itself, but also the funds backing up the real estate. That's also where value could come in here. The explosive growth of real world assets on the XRP ledger, rising from 5 million to 118 million in tokenized real estate and T-bills within the last 6 months. So we've seen a dramatic growth, right? This is, 2000% growth over the last few months. Now, where is this growth going to go in the next 6 to 12 months or in the next 2 to 3 years? You be the judge, right? Now that all the case and all that stuff is behind us, institutions have no reason not to participate. Now, I saw this and I was like, what the heck is this? Is this even legit? Steph Crypto says, breaking, NASA officially mentions Ripple and XRP in its latest presentation on blockchain technology. So this says private blockchain, Ripple and others. It says limited user base, users need permission, transactions verification, different centralized verification system, faster, more efficient with data storage, augmented with commercial distributed databases to enhance performance. So I was like, is this even true? Was this said? Yes, this is accurate. Specifically at the Goddard Space Flight Center, mentioned Ripple and XRP in a recent presentation about blockchain technology. The slide being shared online is genuine and reflects NASA's inclusion of Ripple. This is not an official endorsement, but the acknowledgement of Ripple as a representative of the private blockchain system. Now, remember, Ripple's RippleNet technology is a private system. The XRP ledger is a public decentralized blockchain infrastructure ledger, right? So you got to remember those. That's why it says private here, because RippleNet is private. They allow banks and institutions who they have given access to use the system. All right, let's keep it going. XRP ledger is the largest financial cover-up in history. This is a 23-second clip. Let me play it.
I won't call it a conspiracy theory, but do you believe that there is a shadow engagement happening around XRP right now already?
Absolutely. I think the whole narrative around XRP at this point is one of the largest financial cover-ups in history. And
there you go.
To my brothers,
that's going to be the headline today.
All right, I'm looking for this entire clip. This is still on YouTube. Once somebody clips it over to Twitter, I'll play the whole thing and we'll talk about it a little bit more. I was trying to figure out maybe what was this, what were they mentioning here? The cover-up mentioned XRP, and this segment refers to online speculation and ongoing conspiracy theories about the true nature of Ripple's actions, institutional involvement, and the actual role of value in XRP in global finance. This narrative is especially prominent on social media within the XRP community, where the claim that significant information about XRP's intended use, partnerships, and strategic importance is being withheld from the public. Major themes of this cover-up and speculation are secret sales and hidden escrow activity. You got potential institutional takeover, price suppression, and value distortion. And then, of course, the community calls for transparency, defenses from Ripple executives, and divided sentiment. Now, we could go through this this and, take 20 minutes. I don't think that's what you're here for. I just wanted to bring this up and say this is part of this conversation. Go watch this interview if you're really interested. I am going to clip it as soon as I can and get it going, and we're going to talk about it here. Now, I think Ripple's role is much larger than people give them credit for. I think XRP's role, I think if the entire financial system, the current system that we have right now, something happened to it, whether it was a hack of the SWIFT system or something just totally collapsed, maybe it's the carry trade in Japan unwinding, right? Something could happen where we need instant liquidity and the old system just isn't going to cut it for. I do believe there's been tests and testing and testing and testing. You have the ECB, you have the BIS, right? You have Ripple and all of the banks and institutions that it's worked with, the Federal Reserve here in the United States, the FedNow system, right? Ripple was a part of the Federal Payments Task Force, Faster Payments Task Force. They were also part of the BIS Task Force. They were also part of ISO 20022 Task Force, right? So Ripple has been there at every step of the way. And you start to wonder when the US and the UK get together in the UK to talk about the transatlantic partnership between these two countries and how to speed up payments and infrastructure. And Ripple, Circle, and Coinbase are the three only blockchain companies there. You start to wonder what role are they playing, right? To be invited into Downing Street to have a meeting with the Treasurer of the United States as well as the UK Chancellor, something is going on there. And we don't have full accounting and details, and all we can do is speculate. And I think sooner or later, speculation will be done. And whatever happens, I want to be positioned as well as I can in case this does work out the way we are hoping it does. All right, Mikkel is saying there's a XRP supply shock and it's going to affect the asset. Listen up.
So I want to start off and talk about what a supply shock really even is and how it could happen for XRP. So generally a supply shock often refers to a vast amount of more buyers than sellers in an asset, right? The supply shock will typically take place when you have an asset like XRP. There's a bunch of demand on that asset, but no one willing to sell.
Okay, I spent my entire weekend going through market cap multipliers, going through who owns the supply of XRP, going through all of these different things. I literally spent all of my Sunday on this, and I've been putting it into a video and research. I'm not there yet to make this video, but I've heard from people like Jay Claver that retail owns less than 2 billion XRP, okay? Now, I'm hearing from a lot of sources that there's going to be this massive market cap multiplier for XRP, right? That's going to continue on way into the trillions of dollars, okay? Now, we've seen a market cap multiplier play out already for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the reason it didn't continue into the insane numbers is because enough liquidity came in, right? Enough Bitcoin, Ethereum hit the market from institutions willing to sell. Now, if retail only owns 2% of the entire XRP supply, that means institutions own the rest. Now, you might be waiting for $100 or $1,000 XRP because that's what you need to have all of this make sense for you. Financial institutions, they own way more XRP. They can own billions of XRP at this point. So my question to you is, at what point do you think those institutions are willing to sell their XRP? Now, if those institutions understand the future value of this asset and are like, you know what, we're going to hold on to this, that could mean an insane market cap multiplier for a very long time, but it will be on those institutions who decide to sell. Retail, I would imagine a lot of people are going to be holding for 3 or 4 digits. Some people will be shaking out $25, $50. Those people will exit. But that means the retail is going to own less and less, and institutions will own more and more. I'm gonna lay all this out in the video, guys, and I'm just gonna have what you guys think about it. Now, there are mixed reports of how much XRP is actually available on exchanges. Jay Claver says less than 2 billion is available. When we do some numbers here with crypto rank and things like that, they have about 3.8 billion. So it's really difficult to get the exact amount because you don't know which XRP is actually spoken for. So let's assume it's between 2 and 4 billion, okay? And then this is up from the prior week. What happens if the supply drops below 1 billion or 500 million? If XRP supply on exchanges were to fall toward 1 billion or even 500 million, analysts warn this could trigger a classic supply shock with less XRP available for immediate purchase. Even modest net inflows driven by spot ETF launches, institutional treasury demand, and renewed retail speculation could push prices sharply higher for very short periods. Historic episodes such as the sudden XRP rally from 47 cents to $3.45 with exchange balances depleted show that the price can 5 to 10x in more extreme conditions. Now, this would be even more extreme than when we experienced in the past because we've never had institutional level adoption of the asset. And you were talking about these ETFs and ETP related products. More ETFs in the United States, ETPs, electronically traded products, those are more kind of globally what the terminology is used. They're very similar on what they are, but you're going to require fresh XRP to supply to fund these different products. Now, if these products were to get tens of billions of dollars in the first 6 to 12 months, that could mean a catastrophic price. I mean, catastrophic in a good way. Can you use catastrophic in a good way? I don't know. It didn't sound good. You could have a explosion of price for XRP in a good way. All right, let's keep it going. So guys, if you like this content, please hit like and please share if you think there is value here for you. Let's go. If exchange supplies fall to 1 billion or 500 million range, the order book becomes much thinner and slippage increases for large trades. Analysts estimate that an extreme shock scenario where daily volumes exceed 25 to 50 billion on exchange balances, and if exchange balances are low, XRP's price could multiply 8 to 10x. 8 to 10x from our current prices, ladies and gentlemen, would put us anywhere from $25 to $35. I think a lot of people would be very happy with those numbers. Obviously, a lot of us are still waiting for those higher returns. Now, the rest of this stuff, guys, we're a little long here. I just launched a new community, and this community is really to support me and my team. If you're interested, what you will get here is you will get one video that I do daily uploads without ads. You will get access to my research same day as I'm doing some of this research. You will get XRP updates, all for $25 a month. If you're interested in joining this community and supporting my team, there's going to be a link to the WAP account down below. I know your time is super valuable, and I know some of you just want to take that extra step for learning, and some of you just want to support the channel and say thank you for all the hard work the team does. Please, this is the way to do that. I really appreciate your support. I'll see you in the new Crypto Sensei Dojo for XRP learning. All right, peace. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek financial advice if you need it. Let's get back to the video.